Miss Camilla again. In today's lesson, we're going to learn a very important grammar area, modal verbs. We have learned a lot of kinds of verbs. We have linking verbs, we have action verbs, but today we're going to learn modal verbs. And modal verbs have their own special rules. Alright, so let's check them out. Right, so remember, when you use modal verbs, you have to bear in mind these very important rules. Rule number 1. Modal verbs are followed by the infinitive without to. That means you should not or you must not add to after a modal verb. Rule number 2. Modal verbs take no s in the third person singular. So every time you have to correct the verbs in a sentence, but for modal verbs, you don't need to add s or put s, even though the subjects here refer to the third person singular. Rule number 3. Modal verbs do not change their form according to tenses. Right? So we've learned a lot of tenses, and you always have to change the verbs based on the tenses. Right? However, for phrasal verbs, you do not need to do that. Okay? Number 4. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs. They function like do, be, or have in other tenses. And remember, they form negatives with not. So here comes the structure. First, we have subject plus modal verb, and then you put not, and then verb without to. Okay? So this is the structure of modal verbs in a sentence. Alright, so for question, you just simply put modal verb at the beginning of the sentence, and then you put the subject, and then you put the verb, and of course question mark, because this is a question. Alright, so bear in mind those 4 important rules of modal verbs. And now let's move on to pronunciation. If you want to sound like a native speaker, you have to use contractions. Alright, so here I have given you làm lại mấy cái nhé, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Okay. 11. And next you have to bear in mind that if you want to sound like a native, okay. Next, by the way, Jim. Alright, so next you have to bear in mind that if you want to sound like a native speaker, you have to use contractions. Alright, so here I have given you 11 modal verbs with their contraction forms. Okay? Number 1, can. Alright, so for negative, you just simply add not after can. So we have cannot. And for contraction, we have can't. Alright. And the next one is could. The negative form is could not. And the contraction one is couldn't. Very good. And the next one, may. Right, so may becomes may not. And of course, there's no contraction for modal verb may. Next comes must. Okay, so we could say must weak form or must strong form. Okay, and it becomes must not or must not. But for contraction, you just simply say mustn't. Good job. Next, we have might. So might becomes might not. And for contraction, we have mightn't. Excellent. Next, will. For negative form, we have will not. And for contraction, we have won't. Excellent. Next, we have would. So it becomes would not. And then wouldn't. Very good. Next comes shall. So shall is turned into shall not, or we just simply say shan't. However, shall not or shan't is rarely used in daily conversations. Okay, so it is normally used by British people. But now in modern English, you just simply use will instead of shall for all subjects. And next we have should, if you want to give advice. And should becomes should not, or just simply say shouldn't. Very good. And the last two, we have need. So need becomes need not or needn't. Ought becomes ought not, and then oughtn't. Excellent. All right, so let's start with can, could, be able to talk about abilities, right? So you can use can to talk about abilities at the present, and could for past abilities, be able to for abilities in a specific occasion. All right, so let's start with can. So Stella, do you have any special abilities or talent?
Yep, I am versatile. I can make my own clothes, I can dance, I can swim, I can crochet some kind of things, and I can sing quite well.
Wow, that's great. Can you sing a song?
Yep, I will perform Hello of Adele. Okay, hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all this year you lied to me.
Okay, thank you, my dear. What a great voice. All right. So how about the past? What could you do when you were very little?
I could play the piano when I was only 8.
Really? Yeah.
So, what could you do?
Well, I could scream when I was 5.
Only 5?
Yes, and
Wow.
I could cook when I was 7.
5 and 7?
Yes.
You are a genius.
Thank you, my dear. All right.
So, you have just written here, be able to. What does the words mean?
All right, so be able to is quite special. You use it if you want to refer to abilities in a specific occasion, especially in difficulties or in hardships. That means you succeeded in doing something despite difficulties or hardships.
Yep.
So for example, yesterday I lost my key and I couldn't enter my house, but fortunately I still had my spare keys, and then finally I managed to get into my house.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got it.
Thank you very much. All right, so it's quite easy, right?
Yeah.
Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.